My first stop in Croatia was Zadar. I arrived late one night and the next morning I woke up nice and early to make the most of the day. I headed straight to the old town with two girls that I met at the hostel. We walked and talked all throughout the old town. It was such a lovely day of exploring. One of the first spots was the sea organ, which is along the promenade. The waves move through the structure, creating music. So one of the girls that I was with, she knew a lot about the history of the city and had all of these hidden gems, or maybe not so hidden, spots throughout all of the old town that she took us to. The old town itself is not that big, so after a quick lunch, we continued to walk through some of the very narrow streets before heading back to the promenade. We were just all enjoying the water and being in the sun. After that, we went our separate ways. I headed to the beach and just chilled there for a little bit before heading back to the promenade in the evening with one of the girls. There was a light installation with live music, people dancing. It was a great end of the day. The next day, I hopped on a bus and arrived in Split. One of the first things that I did after arriving was go to a football game. The hostel owner actually rallied a group of people to go watch this local game. It was such a great glimpse into Croatian culture, especially the very passionate supporters in the stand. In terms of actual sightseeing, I went to Klis Fortress. This is a medieval fortress just a short bus ride away from the city centre. I took a lot of footage of the views, but we also went inside of the building and got to see all throughout this medieval fortress. Another highlight was in the old town, Diocletian's Palace. I got to listen to the a cappella singers and marvel at this ancient structure built at the end of the 3rd century AD. There were so many narrow streets in the old town, so every time we got out to one of these public squares, it was such a relief because it was a maze in the very narrow streets. I also took a day trip from Split to Mostar in Bosnia. A group of us from the hostel rented a car and we drove out. I noticed quite a stark difference between Croatia and Bosnia, particularly in the sense of bombed out buildings and war ruins. So that was an interesting observation for me. Because it was raining so much, we stayed inside as much as possible, but also enjoyed looking at the very colourful stalls in the main city centre. And one of the highlights there is the curved old bridge. I took another day trip from Split to Makarska. I took a bus there. It was very easy to arrive. It was raining, so I didn't get to enjoy the beach as much as I would have liked to, but I did do a shoreline walk and really enjoyed the peacefulness of the area. I can imagine this town being very busy in the summertime, so it felt quite nice to have it basically all to myself, especially on the beach. The next destination was Omiš, just a short bus ride away. It was still pretty gloomy by the time that I arrived, but I did a quick loop around the town and ended up going straight to Mirabella Fortress, which is located in the city center, and it's pretty easy to walk up and have a great view of the town and the sea as well as the mountain ranges. After lunch, the sun had emerged, so I made the most of that and did a hike to the Zagreb fortress. I was not prepared in terms of my shoe choice, but I was very thankful to have a great view of the town and the sea from the very top. I befriended a French couple while I was doing this hike. On our way down, we actually took the wrong turn and got a bit lost, and they very kindly drove me to the bus station, and I was running late, so they were very sweet and took me. So shout out to them, I really appreciated that. The rest of the day was spent in Split. I had dinner, had some ice cream, and just walked through the town and sat on the waterfront, just taking in the last bits of Split before I had to get ready to leave. The next morning, I was greeted by sunshine and warmer weather. A group from the hostel was heading to the beach, so I tagged along. I regret not swimming in the sea that morning. I had already packed up my bag and I didn't want to carry around a wet swimsuit, so I didn't go swimming, but I guess I'm just going to have to go back to Split and go for a swim in the sea. I took a bus ride to Zagreb, and the next morning was the beginning of my exploration. I met a really lovely girl at the hostel and we explored the city centre together, did some of the touristy things and headed over to this really serene park not too far from the core. We had strawberries and chocolate and other Croatian snacks. I didn't plan my trip to Zagreb that much, so I took a more spontaneous approach, lots of walking around and going towards places that piqued my interest. I think that it would be a really great city to explore again, just because I feel like I might have missed quite a lot of cool spots. And after about a week in Croatia, my time was coming to an end as I was at the airport headed to my next destination.